Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for being here, and welcome if you're new. Today I am working on a really fun beaded bracelet, very beginner friendly and simple, very beachy, very boho vibes. This is very similar to where we're going. We're going to do some simple beading here. I'm going to do some color blocking using the beads I have for my Malibu Beach collection. I'm still working in that sparkle bag. And then we have a little peek here, little section of that gorgeous vegan suede and the camel. I love that so much. The different thing that we're going to do with today's variation is we are going to do a barrel knot. This one is done with an overhand knot here and a jump ring, a couple of cute seashell dangles. We're going to go ahead and finish this one today with a barrel knot. So this is where we're going, and let me grab all the supplies and I'll be right back. Okay friends, let's go through supplies for today's bracelet. I am using a beautiful selection of beads from my Malibu Beach collection sparkle bag. You can of course use any beads, but I'm going to do some color blocking such as I did here on this one. I just really love the way that turned out with the color blocking. And so we're going to go ahead and use this selection today. These are some 8mm rondelles in that nectar mix, as well as that coastal aqua and a starfish. I'm using the papaya whip, those 4mm glass beads here in between the seashells and on either side here of the starfish. I'm using 2 of the check flowers in the topaz, as well as the check seashells here on the end, and the flower amazonite tumbled nuggets. I do have 3 of them there. I'm using some bead stringing wire. I have a 49 strand in the butterscotch, that's soft flex. And then I'm using a piece of the flat vegan suede and camel, as well as a 5mm jump ring for my starfish. I'm going to use that for a dangle. I am using an 8mm jump ring. This is an 18 gauge, so this is a really thick jump ring for the end where we're going to do our barrel knot. I'm going to use the magical crimper, so I have some 2x2 crimps. I also have the bar portion of one of my toggles. And this is so cool. I love it because it's like a bamboo look to it. And I think it's just going to go with this beachy vibe very well. And I do want to mention that I did permalac that bar because it is it's brass underneath that silver. It's a brass binding. So I did use the permalac. This is what I use. I did use the semi-gloss. You can find the permalac at Potomac and also on Amazon. Okay, so that's what I'm using for that, so that will not tarnish. And of course, we're going to use the magical crimper. You'll need your cutter tool and some chain nose pliers. So I'm also going to use a little straw. I'm going to show you the trick with our barrel knot on the suede when we get there. So I have a little piece of literally a standard straw. So we'll use that little trusty trick for our barrel knots. In order to get started, I'm just going to go ahead and crimp off one end, and I'm going to put my crimp tube on there, and I'm going to put a loop on the side right here. I'm not going to use a wire guardian or a French wire today. I'm just going to go ahead and allow this wire to show through that color, and then I'll go ahead and we'll crimp this off. I'm going to make sure that my wires are not crossed. And I'm just going to do a pretty small loop there. I'm going to go in with my magical crimper tool and make sure that's centered on that crimping tube. And we'll go ahead and squeeze. And I'll go round and round to form that into a round bead. Okay friends, I went ahead and trimmed the excess, and I have my bead stringing wire prepared, and I'm ready to go ahead and string. So I'm just going to do some simple stringing now, and you can go ahead and do any selection and count of beads on a simple bead stringing project like this. Just be mindful of how much of the suede that you want, right? So just really will be different for everybody, but I kind of like about a quarter or a third of my bracelet to have this beautiful suede. It wears very well, and it's very comfortable. So I'm just going to go ahead and feed on all of my beads. Okay, friends, so this is what I have. I went ahead and trimmed my excess wire. That is what my bracelet looks like this far. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put some hardware on either end here of my loops. So a quick tip here, I'm just adding these 8mm 18 gauge jump rings. Quick tip is you try to use a thicker gauge jump ring here for a similar project if you're not using wire guardians or French wire to protect your bead stringing wire. The reason for that is obviously a smaller gauge, a thinner gauge finding here, a jump ring, it just increases your chances of your bead stringing wire coming off, right, if you don't have a thicker jump ring. So it could slide through and fall off the jump ring. So that's why I'm using the thicker jump ring here. So quick little tip there. And so I'm just going to go ahead and add this 8mm on both sides. And the next step is going to be grabbing our trusty fancy schmancy tool for our barrel knot, which is a straw. And of course, my suede. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, doesn't really matter which end. You can be mindful of that if you care to. I am not too particular. So I'm just going to put my suede, put it through my jump ring. And then what I'm going to want to do is kind of pull, let me pull other things out of the way. So you're going to want to pull your suede where you have one longer end. That's what we're going to use to wrap our barrels, right? And then you have a shorter side. So you don't want to marry up your ends for a barrel knot. You want to have one side that's significantly longer than the other side. So I'll go about there. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and put my straw right in between my suede. So I have something like that. Okay. And I am now going to grab this longer piece, which is on the top, and I'm going to wrap it around my straw and wrap it towards the left. You can wrap this as many times as you want. Do as many barrels as you want. I think let's do just two. I'm going to then put the end through the straw here, holding my barrels there. I'm going to pull the straw through, just like that. And then I'm going to begin to tighten that barrel knot up. So I'm going to kind of rotate and hold it as I am pulling. And now what I'm going to want to do before I really tighten this barrel up, I really want to make sure that my length is the length I need. So I'm going to go around with my bracelet and see that that's about good right there. That's about right. Okay, so now that I see that that's about the length I need, I'll go ahead and really just try to keep a hold to my barrels. They're actually, while I'm pulling and pushing it in place here, they're really easy. Barrel knots are, what I was going to say, guys, I just said two things in one, sorry. Barrel knots are really easy on the suede. They're much easier than on a thinner leather or thinner cording. But they're not difficult when you use this trusty guy at all, so I'm also going to, off camera, I'll probably put some glue here just to keep the integrity of my bracelet intact. So what I would do is go ahead and grab some Loctite or E6000, and I would separate my tails and put a piece of glue right there. You can kind of just stick some glue around the outside and let that cure for a full day. So I think that's good. It looks pretty enough for me. think I'm good and tight there. And so that's what I have. And now what I'll do is just literally go over to this side. I'm gonna put my toggle on this jump ring, which I could have done a minute ago. Completely forgot, by the way. And then we'll put our starfish dangle on. So let me open that up and put that on and close this back up really well. And then I'm going to trim my tails. Pulled that a little excessive. Let me see. I think that's good. And push that back up just a little bit. And that's why you want to glue them as well. You want to glue your knots so they won't slide on you. So I'm going to go ahead and trim my tails. Probably about right there. And we'll add a little dangle. So I'm going to open up my 5mm oval and grab my starfish and put that on. And let me see, I think I kind of want it to go, maybe I want it to go over here. Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna put it on this side. So I'm just gonna add that to the jump ring as well. There, and just really easy to put that toggle right through that suede there. Super, super easy. And that'll stay put. And that is what my bracelet looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed and you're inspired to make an easy beaded and leather beachy boho bracelet. Very, very fun and easy to wear. I love it so much. A little different spin on this one, but beautiful nonetheless. How can you go wrong with that selection of beads? Oh, it's so pretty. I will see you guys in the next video. Keep sparkling and be blessed, my friends.